Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, July 1st, 2025 Idlewise Board of Commissioners meeting. It's 9 a.m. and the first thing we do after this call to order is approve the agenda. So we don't have a reason for a non-public session today. So I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the agenda.
Second.
Any other things, any discussion with the agenda? All in favor of the agenda as it's printed?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0 on that. We'll go to the approval of the minutes of June 24th. I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the agenda of, the minutes of June 24th.
Second.
Discussion.
The only thing I had was under admin, bullet number 2, it says July 27th, and it should say June 27th.
Oh, good catch. I missed that.
I have one, I haven't brought it up yet, but
Gotcha.
the word on the monitors, you have the word that looks like the word backet, and I want to
Bracket.
buy an R for that.
Wow,
I missed that too.
it's the bracket. Gotcha.
I just didn't have enough coffee when I reviewed
It's
this.
okay.
Because I don't have anything.
Let's see. Still bringing this up here. Where are the minutes? I had something else highlighted. Do you have any more, Nancy?
No, all I had was,
Under administrative, yeah, great.
Okay, under the DPW report, there's a bullet that talks about the greater wing. It
Yes,
says the greater wing has been brought to Albany Service Center. I believe it was the
wing
tower. The
wing,
word tower needs to be after
what
it.
is it?
Tower.
Oh,
As
like
in
a
leaning tower,
tower, okay.
of Pisa.
Wing tower.
And the towers brought it, we had to get the grader there for them to
No, the
weld
whole
it.
machine
Yeah, the
went,
whole
yeah.
machine went, so it wasn't the greater wing tower. It wasn't
We
the greater
brought the
wing.
whole grader to
The whole
address the
grader
wing
was
tower?
brought to
Yeah.
Albany
Okay.
Service Center so
Gotcha.
that they could weld the wing tower.
Okay. Yeah,
People will be
I mean,
fascinated to know this.
I'm not, yeah, so
But
I'm not gonna know unless you
right.
specifically describe to me.
this is why we review the minutes.
Yes. Okay, great.
Was that everything? I think that's all I had.
Okay.
So with those modifications,
Did you have anything, Wada?
No, I found, I'm okay on the,
Okay.
all in favor of the modified minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
3-0.
Okay.
Then we go to the approval of an operations manifest for $8,092.82. I'll make a motion to discuss and approve this manifest.
Second.
Discussion. Let's see. The noteworthy stuff is, there were tires, but these were the rear tires, I believe.
Albany
Yeah.
Service, yeah, they put the 4 new tires on the truck.
All in the rear for this,
Yes.
this go round. We had a tire blowout. And
Yes.
so there'll be another invoice coming on that, plus,
Right.
plus the services to get the
Yeah.
vehicle back.
Yeah, well, no, he came on the side of the road and put
Yeah.
a tire that he had at the shop on to get us home. And then he realized when he ordered the new tire and that came in, he went to put it on this a kingpin or something there that was a little askew because of the blowout. So should be fixing that now as well.
So there's no damage to the metal wheel.
No, the rims seem to be okay, I believe. Yep.
So the kingpin is part of the axle
Yeah.
mechanism.
Yeah.
Okay, we bought some gravel and a little bit of that went to
Stewart when he
Bergdorf.
did the test pit, yep, I marked that on that slip there for that one.
So that would be charged to, that was the test holes for the water project.
Right.
So one load would be charged if you can manage that.
Well, if you look at the manifest,
It's charged.
it's charged.
It's charged to Wada.
Okay.
Atta girl.
That's on the water
water
manifest.
lines, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to review that, because
Yeah.
I wanna be sure that, I don't
You-
wanna have to
You
go
also
back
sent a
and-
note that you wanted to go over the engineer's bill as to what accounts to charge different things to.
Well, I think I'm gonna have to go back to them and tell them to split it out, so I understand they just got it in a lump. The charge, they didn't break it out.
Encompassing several different projects. right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I think
They-
I'm gonna have to go back to them and ask them to please break it out, so I know exactly, what portions are going to
Can
what.
we do it? I guess I need to look to see exactly what you're talking about.
The bill, if you look
Yeah.
at the bill.
Yeah, it's got all the line items, and we probably could, but on the other
No.
hand, no? Okay.
No,
It's not, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask if they can bill by
it's not,
each individual project.
correct.
But how many projects we got going with them now? We got the Como,
That at least
the
encompassed
uranium,
2 projects. Possibly
And
3, I don't know, cause they're not
Bergdorf line?
telling us.
Bergdorf, they will be doing a project later this year with the A&E of Grisson. And you already said the water main project.
Yeah,
let's take a look at that, but I kind of agree, it's not unreasonable to ask if they, in the future, they could bill by individual projects, so that we can do our accounting correctly.
One thing I'm noticing is the invoice for removing a beaver from the Big Loop
Ed
area
Robinson, yeah,
is being charged to water services, buildings and ground.
that's why I have it
Yeah.
highlighted. I'm not sure if that's actually parks and if that really should go to park, cause last year this is where it was charged and I don't think anybody caught it.
Wouldn't that be really rude, under road
Mm.
maintenance? Because theoretically,
It's
if
culvert.
and-
if the culvert got blocked up
Yeah.
and it flooded over, it'd affect the road.
Yeah,
That's where it shouldn't be charged to. And if it's it begins with 4-3, it's in the water system, right?
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with the water system,
Right,
even if it is
correct.
buildings and grounds on the
Right.
water system. So it shouldn't go to this, it should go to
I
the
agree.
highway budget.
I wouldn't call it Parks and Recreation.
So, looking at history of something like this, it did go to parks, it did go to water, and I'm trying to find out really where it should be coded.
Okay,
Well, I'll make a motion that from here on out, beaver mitigation at Big Loop Culvert goes to roads. Whatever the proper,
But there's so
next
many
year there'll be a
roads.
separate line item on the budget for beaver removal. And that will take care of it, it'll be under.
are you serious or are you joking around?
No, he's serious.
Every year, why search for them if you're doing it every year?
All right,
Correct.
all right,
And he catches one, not 2.
okay,
It's not all of them that stop the problem.
all right.
Could be every year, about every other year.
it all depends.
We did it last year,
We
yeah.
did it last year.
The second year in a row.
Before that, we probably didn't do it for 2 or 3 years.
So highway and
Um,
streets other, cause that's really all I'm finding. If you wanna code it correctly. The rest are, that's supplies, trucks, equipment.
I'm okay with that.
And then it goes into water services.
So that would be account 4312.00.
4-3,
4312.00, because
no, because that's just a heading, that's just.
no, that's the account number under the chart of accounts. Then which correlates with highways and streets other. I'm looking at the P&L you sent us, unless there's some, that's the chart of accounts number.
Highway.
Go to the right, you don't see any
The
numbers,
fourth
that's it.
No, no,
She's saying that's-
I'm looking at the other one she said, this is the consolidated P&L from QuickBooks
Right,
And we
which
have
there's
QuickBooks in-
nothing been assessed to that budget. There's nothing there.
Correct.
In fact, something's been allocated to it
Some,
showing a
we've
negative.
already spent $376 to that line item account, even though there's no budget for it.
Correct.
Okay, but I don't think, I wouldn't worry about the budget, that's just a working guideline for us. If you wanna put it somewhere for the moment in 4312, or there's no reason why we can't create account 4313. If there isn't one already. I don't think so, because that's as high as the number goes. And just called beaver mitigation.
And well, we don't get to change that at this point.
No.
Right, that's what I thought. So I'm gonna make a motion that we charge beaver mitigation to account number 4312.00, highway and streets other.
Where did you get, I don't have something that's in the
It's
landscape.
page 3 of the profit and loss.
The orientation of what he's holding here is not something I have.
No, you probably printed the budget, right? The other one. She sent, Jennifer
Did you
sent us
print this
both
out
of these.
yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay, that's why I don't have it.
Right.
It's page 3.
I printed out both of these.
Yeah, I'll get you. Oh, I thought I didn't get
Because
one.
I didn't know which one you want. This one is not broken out by water operations and budget. It's everything together. It's a consolidated picture.
I don't know
entire-
what you printed. I know I brought a print for
printed
you guys
exactly-
to review,
I
and
print-
it's on page 3
Well,
of the profit and loss.
okay. And you see that, 4312?
Correct.
Okay, yeah. Because this is our internal working document budget. This is actually from QuickBooks.
Show me your 4312 again here.
Okay, this is from the P&L QuickBooks, and there's 4312.00, highways and streets other.
Other.
Okay, we didn't budget anything for it. We've already spent something. I don't know what that $376.74 was, but we already ascribed an expense to that account. So I say, let's just do beaver mitigation in that account for the rest of this year, and then create a brand new account like 4213.00 for next year.
It
All right.
leaves,
That's his motion, yeah?
Any further discussion on that?
well,
Needs a second, I guess. I'll second it.
okay.
Discussion.
You'll be adding funds to expenses to a line that doesn't have a budget.
Correct.
That's where you can get in trouble.
That's the problem, is that he's pointing towards
Problem is,
a different piece of paper that has.
you don't
line-
have this?
Yeah, we got that.
Show her where
Yeah.
you're pointing at,
Okay.
to see that there's a difference
Yeah,
between.
No,
what-
she's got the actual P&L here. We're looking at the exact same thing.
Right,
There's 4312, okay.
yes. Yes, but you're gonna be adding money to something that doesn't have a budget,
Right.
which means it's not gonna show on this, because it doesn't have a budget.
I didn't mean for this to go into this.
No, this
This
is,
far?
well,
No, I disagree. Oh, wait, no, I don't disagree. Let me not shoot too fast here.
This is where he's looking at a printout.
Okay, but this is an internal budget that we can add as well. Why, there's no reason why we can't add a line here.
Not now.
we can't.
We
The
can't?
budgets have already been approved for this year.
Next year we
can't
can't.
change
Oh,
a
okay,
line.
we're not adding anything, because the budget will still be zero, but we can show an expense in that line item.
And where's it gonna show up here?
He wants to
It
add.
would add up to the total highways budget overall. It would just add up.
He wants to create a new line item in that Excel spreadsheet.
Can't.
Overexpend the budget because it has zero. Show it as an over expenditure in that major category.
But
And
it's,
then fix it next year.
yeah, it's only an over expenditure in one line item. It's, what we're more concerned is
Yeah.
the big picture. The highway department, roads all together, total. right? That's what we don't wanna overspend. Because you can move money.
You do the same
as I
thing by
understand it-
putting it in an existing line item. Do you have an existing line item that this can go in without changing that spreadsheet?
All right, let's take a look. Where, if you don't wanna add one for now.
No wonder they added it to
The
orders.
catch-all. Highway,
There's an engineering one, 4312.3, of which we've spent 0 on, budgeted 1,500.
Hopefully we don't have 10 more beavers.
Shut up.
I would put it into
We'd have to
highway,
Close down the village.
highway equipment, tools, supplies, shop stuff. That's kinda like the catch-all for
So-
things that don't have specific budgets
All right,
in the
so
highway.
4312.62,
Yes,
highway equipment, tools, supplies, shop.
right, and it has a budget of 15,000.
Correct.
I would put it in
All
there.
right, I can go with that, if this other way is just too much hassle for the time being.
So we'll amend the motion to say that we're gonna use the account of 4312.62
Second,
for this charge of removing beavers at $150.
Aye.
3-0 on that. On to the next thing.
Did you, yeah.
okay,
Well,
but
we're
not
still
to throw a
reviewing
wrench
that.
in the works, we're still gonna need to figure out what that 376.74 that was put into the other account, which has no budget.
We were reviewing the manifest that had a line item for $150 charge for
Right.
removing a beaver.
Right,
One beaver.
so we'll get to the other part when we
Yeah.
get to the budget.
Fair enough.
So we talked about gravel, we talked about the truck tires. And we have the 5 porta potty rental for the month, that's costing us $550 a month. And we're paying employee benefits,
Medical.
medical insurance. Any other discussion on this manifest for,
Was there a question on the Belmore? For the,
Catch basin.
catch basin
do I
stuff?
see it in this manifest?
Yes,
Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah,
yeah,
if you
The-
wanted to hold it.
the
because you had a- you had a
2062.50.
question.
Why is it not leaping out at me? Oh, I see catch basin, jet
Yeah.
cleaning.
Yeah, cause I don't think I think we're
Respond.
being charged the full amount, but
He
they
needs to-
haven't finished the work. So
Yes.
I didn't know if what we wanted to do with that.
but there was an email from him saying he adjusted the price due to issues, but I guess the question is how much more work needs to be done?
Well, what we agreed to was that he was sending his truck for 2 8-hour days. And it was gonna be, that's at $250 an hour for 16 hours over 2 days. And there would be a mobilization fee. And he sent an invoice for 8.25 hours and didn't break out any mobilization fee for that one trip. So he needs to clarify.
Which you've asked him, well, you've somewhat,
I responded to him sending
Yeah.
this invoice by saying, the truck arrived at 7:10 that morning, cause I got a call after 7 that he was at Community Market looking for directions to find where you guys were. And the truck broke down at 1:20 in the afternoon. So based on that, I'm gonna say that we should hold this check. And if you wanna modify and take this check off this, or just hold the check, which we've done in the
I
past.
think we should just hold it.
So we'll approve this manifest, holding this check for
Mhm.
clarification?
Yep.
Okay, so the motion gets changed, well, the motion is to approve the manifest, then we'll do a motion to hold this check.
Yeah.
So the motion on the floor is to approve the manifest for $8,092.85.
I already gave it a second.
yep,
Aye,
3-0 on approving the manifest, now I'll make a motion that we hold the check to Belmore, for clarification on the invoice.
Second,
Aye.
aye.
301 holding the check.
Yep.
Alright, so the manifest is done. And there's no water manifest, so at 9:20 we'll move to the DPW report.
Okay, dokie.
Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. So, looking at this, what I see here, I'll go to the pond levels first. Taking a quick look around at the big pond beaches today, this morning, because of the concerns that we've had here. You know, this time of year, that, you know, going back to the days when I used to rake them every morning, years ago, for the summer, I mean, they look to be where they normally were and are. You know, I did take a good look at the spillway and this morning and said, yeah, okay, I could see some leakage through the boards. So we did go find a couple of other boards and swapped out an 11 for an 11 that seems to have a tighter fit in there, and re-put the cap board back in there. So I think, you know, we might see a little less seepage through there now. So that is something that we addressed this morning, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Was it flowing over the top board?
It's flowing over the top board as well.
So the level's not wrong.
No, so the level's still there. I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But there was a little seepage between boards, so we tried to tighten that gap up a little bit with a different board. You know, I don't know what else to do.
I'm more concerned, I'm glad you did that. But as is my habit, I so often take pictures just to see where the levels are to track them over time. And I noticed, was it 2 days ago, I took a picture, is that hole in the sidewall
Yeah.
is definitely bigger
Oh,
than
absolutely.
last year when we had the DES inspector here.
Yeah.
And a lot of water's coming through.
Yeah.
So I just happened to, when I told you I ran into Yuri on my way back from dinner last night, he was walking Violet, and I asked him, probably shouldn't have because he's off duty, but I said, could you just take a look at that, see what your opinion is?
Yeah.
And he said, I already know about that.
Yeah, we've taken a look at that.
And he started spouting out a bunch of ideas as to how you can mitigate that, and I said, okay, hold, stop. You're kind of overwhelming me now, but that is a discussion we're gonna have to have. And I'd like to hear it at some point, because I think we need to address that. What can we do locally at virtually no cost to help mitigate that? Because a long-term mitigation plan is gonna cost money. My idea was, this may be stupid, but is there any way we could slide a thin, 1/4-inch steel plate on the outside of the spillway concrete, jam it down into the silt, so it's covering that hole, in which case the water pressure in the silt should keep it reasonably attached to the sidewall. It's not gonna mitigate, it's not gonna stop the seepage completely, but it would slow it down, I think, quite a bit. So that was just an idea of mine, whether it's doable, practical, I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah, I mean,
My fear is that if we don't do something, it's just gonna get bigger and bigger. And
well, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the erosion is coming over the top of the dam and running down the sides and creating that hole
Right,
to
'cause-
grow. I mean,
Well, no, I think now that there's egress of water from outside the concrete block of the dam, the water rushing in from the outside is what's going to widen that hole. You look at
Yeah.
it, the water coming over the spillway itself is not hitting that hole.
well, it
It's
comes from the sides as well, and it runs
Well, yes,
down the
yes.
sides of the walls. And
Yes,
that's
it-
what's eroding the sides of the.
Right.
But it's
Concrete.
mostly you can see it's like a garden hose. When you turn that on, it sprays out. You can see that coming through that hole. That garden hose sort of look.
But that's not my area of expertise. I don't
And if
know. I just know that you're right. It is getting larger, and it will be a problem.
Okay. Well,
Moving
then all
forward.
I'm going to ask is then maybe like I said, Yuri started throwing a bunch of ideas at me. You discuss it with them, and we
Yeah.
can discuss this. We can't get into unknowns right now.
Right.
I'm just saying that was my idea, and we can discuss the merits of it later.
But
And I don't think we can put anything into the actual spillway without talking to DES
Yeah.
and the Dam Bureau.
This is not the
and
area for amateur
yes,
opportunities, do-it-yourself fixes.
no,
Okay.
And we wrote an ordinance that allowed us to actually maintain it by dropping the level of the water down where you would need to drop it down to do maintenance. And the legislative body was led to not allow us to do that.
Well, I think the way, at some point, we're gonna have to, so.
Well, then the ordinance has
The
to
ordinance is
change.
gonna have to change.
Or when we have a public hearing and just say what we're gonna do, and it's a temporary, suspension of the ordinance to allow us to do that.
I believe the ordinance was written and voted by the legislative body, that only the legislative body can change the ordinance.
But
That is
Nan-
correct.
But you have already told us time and again that that cannot happen.
Yes, but the base fact of the matter is, once the legislative body has passed something, we should bring it to the warrant to change it. Kinda like we did with the, parking lot
Yeah.
at the park, you know? We brought it to the legislative body and
Okay.
said, we wanna make changes, are you gonna allow us? So this would be next year's warrant.
Okay, because other than that piece, I don't have a problem with the ordinance, but at some point, we're gonna have to lower it to do maintenance on it.
The other thing that was dismaying was the engineer that came up from the Dam Bureau stuck his cell phone down to take a picture of that sidewall. And I was in disbelief that he was okay with his visit and didn't talk about the fact that that was an issue, that it's already been documented, and was over telling us to take trees out for the overflow. And I don't get it. I don't
Okay.
get what the legislative body's doing, I don't get what the Dam Bureau is doing, so I am not looking for do-it-yourself fixes or tampering with the dam. I'm back to the Dam Bureau, asking them for a copy of the picture that he took and his explanation as to what we should do in fact of your observations. And until I hear back from them, I'm not interested in any other conversations about this until we
Okay.
get to the legislative body or the Dam Bureau saying that what they're recommending needs to be done, because they were here, we had 5 people spending a lot of time with that guy. And that's my opinion.
Okay.
Okay, so we covered that. Jumping up to the Thusis Beach request for sand. You know, it's one of those, it's not, obviously we know it's not like Idlewild Beach or Geneva Beach, which are more true beaches, I mean, where there's a nice area to lay out chairs and that type of thing. Thusis Beach, as like Portage Shore Beach, they're kind of smaller, and you know, the area of beach to water is small on both of those. I think adding sand to those, it's just gonna end up in the pond. Adding sand up back behind, up above the beach there, where you get the roots of all those trees and things, again, it's all just gonna erode into the pond. I don't, in my opinion, see the sense of adding sand to those 2 beaches.
We can stop.
Okay.
We cannot
And I
add,
also know that.
we cannot
Right,
add sand to
exactly.
a public beach without permits
Correct.
from DES. So there's nothing we can do at this point.
Right, and I know that as well. Every so many years, you get this and that, and you could add, you know, and I
Okay.
get that. So, but that's I think it's a waste of money and time to try to add sand to those beaches, because again, they're not your traditional what you think of as a beach.
Where did the request come from? It wasn't this week's packet, right? Was it this email that we got?
It was a phone conversation from an Idlewise property owner.
I think what happens, you know, in those 2 beaches, you know, again, years ago when I was raking the beaches, on a daily basis, you know, you get that fluff in those little areas, and it fluffed up things, and people, you know, it was nice and this and that, you know, and maybe they missed that type of stuff or whatever, but like I said, that you said you can't do it because of the
Regulations.
the regulations, and those 2 areas, they're nice little hidden gems that don't see the activity as the other beaches, but again, they're set up differently too, that they're the way they are for a reason as well.
So, Nancy, this is a question for you. If I recall correctly, a homeowner with beachfront is allowed to add sand every so many years, but I don't think that requires DES.
Technically, a homeowner, homeowner regulations are very different than public
Okay,
beaches.
that's what I wanted to know.
And homeowners aren't supposed to have beaches unless they're stepped down by DES regulations. And there's many beaches, some of which are older than the rules, you know, some of which are newer than the rules, that are not set by the DES standards, and that's on the homeowners, that's not on us, and there's nothing we can do about that.
I was just wondering if there was a similar like period that you had to wait before you could put sand again.
They're not supposed to have sand that goes to the water. It's supposed to be stepped down.
Right, okay.
Like a perch beach.
Oh, I see,
Yeah,
yeah.
the sand should be up, and then they step down, but that's, like I said, that's a homeowner regulation,
Gotcha.
not ours.
So you got a call to the office, and did that go out as an email?
No,
How did you know about this sand?
I didn't
Okay.
didn't,
until he
I was just
started
reading it
talking
off
about
the thing.
sand,
It's on the
and it's
agenda.
on the agenda,
Right, I just read it off of that, so
right? Right,
so,
So I think these beaches one day will all be perched beaches that keeps the sand from going into the water. And the satellite photography of the beaches, particularly Little Beach, shows how much sand has moved into the water. You can see it right through the water from the satellite
Oh, yeah.
photography. It's huge.
yeah,
So someday we'll talk to DES about, I would think that they're in favor of people turning public beaches into perch beaches.
they
'Cause
probably would be.
Because they have given a beach on Middle Pond off Altdorf, a permit to do perch beach.
Right.
There was concrete work done at the edge, water's edge.
Yep, and there was one on Big P that was also given permission to do a perched beach many years ago.
So, we don't know, the board doesn't know who made the request.
No,
And,
You said that was a phone call only, right? Did the person identify themselves?
yes, I know who it is.
Oh, okay. I think maybe in the future, have these people also write a formal letter via email, so it's on record for all of us to see.
Alright, so we're on the DPW report.
yeah, so moving forward, you mentioned Altdorf there, Mark, 7 redid their driveway. Company came in and did their driveway, and it kinda regraded it, re-gravelled it, might be something you guys wanna take a look at. Typical run right into the road type of thing.
Which address was this?
7,
7 what?
Altdorf,
Altdorf.
Off of Big Loop.
yes, yeah. You know, that debris still up there at 7 Chicorowa.
yeah, we got a letter for that.
Okay, all right, I took a ride there yesterday and this morning again, just to see, look, the machine's pulled out of there, but, you know. Or 7, the driveway that just got paved next door.
Is that the new,
Driveway.
new construction?
No,
On Chicoro?
yeah,
No, I'm talking Altdorf.
oh no, that's not new construction, no, that's an existing driveway maintenance.
Altdorf is a modification to the driveway.
Yes.
By we're assuming the homeowner. So-
Did they put in an application for that?
I don't,
I guess they're considering this maintenance, because there's no application.
Okay.
Yeah, when
So we-
when we get to to that ordinance, there'll be a lot of changes.
right, so, we got the speed bumps in last week, we changed the 8-ton sign at the end of Idlewise there past Deuces to the 10-ton sign that we found in the shop. We talked about the truck going in for the tire. We painted the white lines yesterday, and Jen got my phone protector for my case for my phone, so we're all keep that in good working order. The 2018 Ram's going in the 7th for that gasket deal that was back over the winter that they found. when
Going
they
in
did the
where?
service, so that's going in finally.
Albany?
No, it's gonna go to the dealership, Mark Motors. So that'll probably be out of commission for about a week. And I'm gonna order up Yuri some shirts and sweatshirts,
Yeah,
get him looking official. But that's about all I got.
All right, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Maybe even Ian might know the answer. This is just,
We'll tag team it.
okay. All right, because I'm the new kid on the block and I don't know all this stuff, but, okay. So I'll set the picture. Driving out Ida West Drive toward 113 to go to dinner last night. And one of those huge trucks with at least 6 wheels on it, and then behind it, one of those huge long trailers on top of which was riding a Caterpillar grader, was going on our roads. How much do you think that entire rig weighs?
so it was coming in as you're coming
Yes,
out?
it was
Oh,
coming
way
in
more
as I
than
was
10
going in.
tons.
40,000?
What time was this?
This was approximately 5:30 last night.
Lovely. And we don't know where it ended up?
I don't know, it was just using, it obviously used Ida West Drive to go clear over to Conway. This was a big truck with at least 6
Oh.
wheels on it and a long trailer which is carrying a Caterpillar grader on it.
Yeah.
So it was using our
Are you
roads
weight
as,
loaded on even the dirt roads and everything in here? Like this time of year?
Yeah, everything I believe is 10 tons.
10 ton?
right?
yeah, it's 10 tons now. So my gut feeling was, that's more than 10
Well,
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I can tell you, like, my truck and trailer is like 13 tons. So,
Right,
Um,
and he's got a 2,500 pickup, 3,500 pickup
25
truck, you know
pickup
what I
and
mean?
a
With his-
10,000 pound machine. So combined, it's like between 12 and 13 tons. So yeah, that's a lot more.
I mean, our 6-wheeler's hauling 10 tons of material, not counting the weight of the truck.
Okay.
Right.
So this is a discussion for another time, but you know, when our highway ordinance is finally in place, you know, how do we deal with enforcement? In my case, if I was driving, so I couldn't take a picture, but I did see the name of the hauling company or the owner company
Yeah.
on the side of the truck. It ended with Industries. I won't say what the first name is.
Do they pave roads like Town Line Road? Because a vibratory roller was stopped in front of the flagpole, and then I saw it parked on the lower part of Town Line Road, which is scheduled to be repaved. And so I started to assume the town was getting ready to have a contractor.
Yeah, I saw that roll coming in on a big truck and trailer
And
yesterday, I
it's
mean.
parked in the gravel part of Town Line Road.
Right.
Well, I'm assuming if this Caterpillar grader was on a trailer, it was going somewhere to be worked on,
Yes,
repairs and maintenance.
yeah, they're hauling it to a job
I
site.
did see a grader somewhere in the district here recently. I just can't remember where. I want to say it was down in Bergdorf or something where they were doing that lot clear. No, it was a paved road over on Ida West paved. Anyway, I did see a grader in here.
A little one.
A little one.
Yeah.
Not a big monster one.
Right, yeah, the little ones they do for the driveways, they'll
Yeah, that's-
regrade and
that's
then
what
pave
it
the
was.
driveways.
No, this grader was every bit as big as our Volvo.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah,
Anyway,
Anyway, just wanted to bring that up. Okay.
yeah, no, I don't, that happens.
on your to-do list, did you have a chance to get over to Bergdorf to get that tree that's gonna?
Yes.
You did.
Yeah, we hauled that down, yeah. Yeah, but that's what I got. Unless there was anything else.
So we make it back to ditching Appinville.
Yeah, as soon as, I'm hoping to get the grader back tomorrow and Tony working and we'll get back right on that.
So it wasn't just Tony needing a couple of days, it's the grader still at.
The grader still
Yeah.
needs that,
Okay.
you know, I was hoping he had that done, I stopped in there yesterday. I also got that blower information over to Alan, so he was gonna call that Justin direct, I gave him his number and contact and all that, you know, to get some answers for that. But, I mean, again, Alan knows how to fix it.
That's Alan at Albany, right?
Albany Service, yes. So,
Anything else for Jeff?
No?
wonderful,
Nope. And thanks for the reports, they look
Yes.
good.
no
Thank you.
problem, thank you.
So I did some stuff with FEMA, I got the Bergdorf contractor invoice into FEMA for
Yeah,
reimbursement. FEMA mentioned that the state was not passing, at the time I talked to Homeland Security last week, Emergency Management, New Hampshire had not passed a budget, and she said that was holding up everything, and I don't know why money obligated from FEMA to Emergency Management of New Hampshire will be hung up with anything to do with the New Hampshire budget, but that's what she said. In the meantime, we got a bulletin from, New Hampshire Municipal Association that the budget passed.
Yes.
So I sent that to emergency management for their information. But what I need to do is, I looked at what I had in my records of what the DPW did with FEMA related stuff from last year, 2004. And what I have is a list of ditch material, or list of materials hauled to burn.
Yeah,
And so that's the document I have.
yeah,
And based on that, we have to figure out how to invoice emergency management for 2004 work.
right.
So if you have other records,
Yeah, there should have been stuff that went to that 113 location as well. It was burn and
is
then,
that a separate,
yeah, I thought I had written that down on two different,
if you can pull your stuff together
yeah,
and pick an afternoon, maybe before the grader comes back,
right,
so maybe today.
yeah. Yeah, I'll look through my notebook, cause cause if I did that for burn, I did it for that location, and there might even have been one other location where there was some small material, it might even have been. Yeah, was it, yeah, we'll go through that.
What time this afternoon?
2:30, whatever you wanna meet in, come down.
This is where material is going.
Well, it's reconstructing everything so I can
Right,
do a request for reimbursement for
Right.
yeah,
2024, which
Yeah.
was just you and Tony
right, yeah, no, we hauled
with no grader.
material into a couple different places.
Right.
Well, we used the grader a little bit last year as well, but a little harder with two guys.
And then it disappeared for the summer.
Oh, yeah,
New grader.
right, we had it out of commission for a while.
Yep.
Many months.
Months.
Right, that's right,
And the bill kept racking up and up and up.
yeah, that's right
Right,
too.
so,
But yeah, no, we did do some ditching with the backhoe, we did haul material to a couple different sites. And I know I wrote all that down, so I'll look that up.
2 o'clock?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll see you at the garage at 2.
okay,
Very good.
alrighty, thank
Anything
you.
else? No?
No.
Thanks, Jeff.
Have a great day,
Yeah,
buddy.
no. See ya.
So your delayed start was mostly due to a beaver.
There's no problem. No problem at all.
What?
What's the, you guys have a little dam
We
issue
did,
or?
On the beaver and the,
Crazy beaver,
the accounting
yeah,
of that,
sorry.
work.
No issue.
Beavers are gonna get their own line item. You don't even have one. Or does he?
Well, it was
Yeah, he
originally
does.
Oh, he's in the water
underwater.
budget, yeah.
Alright, so the beaver's getting up to your level. So, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
The big thing I need to do is nail down more specifically how I get a bid package in front of contractors. The plan was that Simply Water would install
Yeah.
gate valves and adapters at either end of the project. One on Aspen and Bergdorf, and one at number 5, Bergdorf, the other
Yes.
end on the other side.
Tell you,
And-
it's-
And through no fault of anybody, we couldn't do it because we discovered the depths of how,
and even maybe locations. I'm still pretty head scratched over where in the hell that water line is. I started thinking some crazy stuff as to whether or not that bleeder down on Aspen's actually feeding down Gretchen, where the dead ends actually are on that line. It's because it's odd as we got talking about it and thinking as to why houses were being fed off, the Aspen line. Why they did that once upon a time. It was service lines run down, and we've seen some wacky things. We did end up finding a note in the book that said somebody had come across a line on Aspen, didn't have any indication of what house number it was or anything, or where on Aspen, so obviously Aspen's a pretty significant road. But that mains were found at 8 feet deep on Aspen. So, as a rule, we were down, I wouldn't say we were 8 feet across the extent of the project, because, we were in, there were portions of it. We went at a minimum of 6.5 to 7 feet for the entirety of it, but we were in such, glacial hardpan that it's just you at some point you gotta say there's nothing underneath our feet here. So.
Okay, so there may not be a water main at the intersection of Bergdorf and Aspen.
I'm not, it's just, it's very uncommon that I can't find, even a ditch line or something to show that there was line there. And we didn't come across any indications. There was one spot, kinda close to where we would think, theoretically the main could be, that felt like maybe there was something there, but that spot we went down over 8 feet deep. We kinda hit the extent of the excavator, 9, probably 8.5, 9 feet deep, and we didn't find anything over a 4-foot span, so.
When you went down 11 feet on Grissom.
Yeah.
We know there's a water main,
Yeah,
and you
yeah.
didn't see one.
Right. So someone finding at 8 could mean that it's 10.5 or 11, or who knows? Depends on how much fill was tossed on top. So
So I have contractors waiting for me to give them a bid package, and
I think the
need
first
to-
move.
we need to nail down what the bid package says.
I know you
because-
have a couple guys you've kind of opted to work with on bigger stuff. Whether it's Bernie, I can't remember who you said. Stewart, or a couple of guys you have. I mean, I've got some people with bigger equipment, and we could go rent bigger equipment. But I think move one is to, I guess, more thoroughly rule out this location. I mean, they can dig down to 6.5 feet deep, pretty much across where we went, or start at the beginning. Dig 6.5, and then just start shelving down to like 10 feet deep and move. Because without that knowledge, you're not going to be able to tell somebody what they're getting themselves into.
So the contract, the bid package could say that the project starts with them bringing their bigger machine in and going to where you dug on Aspen and Bergdorf. And
Exploratory.
locating, and this is the problem of having one company tied into the contract of another company, as opposed to them subbing and having control over timing, scheduling, and
So what I would probably do in this application, if I were in you guys' shoes, is hire them separate from any bid project or anything, just to come in, same way that we typically do this stuff, but instead of us, you're hiring them. We work with them as the district to help with shutdowns, pipe fitting, whatever. So you were just having a contract that gives you a day rate of $3,500 a day or whatever they are to come in
For their exploratory.
and say, put a 2-day budget on it to give them that, and once that's done, then you can put out a bigger panel that says, kind of try to solve what we couldn't, and then once that's accomplished, then you can pass it off to or create a contract for a bigger job overall, the bid.
Yeah, something? You said there's a bleeder on Aspen, right?
Yes. Right.
So that's a direct connection to the main. Can the bleeder be used somehow to?
So there was a
trace back?
conversation about starting, but it's so far away, you're digging to start tracing all the way back there and tracing and then chasing the line, obviously becomes so cost prohibitive that the answer to the question is yes, you can certainly chase that, but you're talking a couple 100 feet through pavement that you're running. So it just, at that point, it becomes.
No, I'm not talking about digging.
Sorry, go ahead then.
Again, I'm ignorant about this stuff, but I thought if there's a bleeder, there
Well,
was.
he even mentioned using Grant State Rural Water Association
Right.
to
So
send a probe up.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so I
Some
talked to
kind of
those
probe.
guys.
Yep.
They are actually, so I don't know, I have a memory of those guys having this stuff, but they said they don't currently have it. But they're
deny it
actually,
now?
They
deny it, yeah.
yeah, so they're looking. I said this guy Josh I work with is he's looking to see if they can procure that and get it over here. So I've reached out to EJP, a few other places that we do business with, seeing if they have one. Maybe we can rent or purchase or whatever. So I'm trying to get my hands on a line locator because I know I've used one. It's a beeper that goes down a line and you get a special wand on top that you walk and follow, and gives you some idea of the depth and the location within about a foot or two. Obviously the downside to those, we'll find one. I don't know if it's going to be in 2 weeks or 2 months. But the downside is you've obviously you've isolated a section of main, you depressurized it. Realistically we should at minimum chlorinate that, and maybe take those section of homes, keep it isolated from the rest of the system, and try to keep those couple homes off a voluntary boil order or something. The good news in this section is we're only talking about 3 houses that would get shut down that may not even be up. If we did this over a 2-day period, they might not even be up. They're all second homes. So if we could even have some level of coordination, that could simplify this.
It's July.
Yeah, I know. Anything's possible. Maybe we can find a week and,
They're gonna be here.
Yeah, I hear you. So that's the, outside of that, you're talking, a pretty simple, temp line that runs above surface, a 1-inch poly line feeding hose bibs or something we could do while we did this in case it stretched out. But anytime we're depressurizing and sending an object down the pipe, it just kind of changes the, we're not just cutting and repairing something under control. It's like we've left it open for, down pressured for 6-8 hours and, sent something into it. So, it just kind of changes a little bit the other back end of what we get into with that. But the only way, first we got to find some end of the main, which again maybe is down chasing the bleeder just to find that. But then we insert that in and wand it and find it and go from there. Those guys are scheduled with me for just leak detection, which are sounding, listening. So I guess I just call it leak detection. But with their microphone equipment, we'll create flow at the bleeder. Just cut the nip off it and just send 1-inch flow so they can hear water and maybe they can kind of help locate the main in that way. Much simpler. I think we're about 2 weeks out on that. So we could try that first before you get somebody in here. I think it was the July 19th. I'll solidify and get that over to you guys. But I again can't promise that's going to give us everything we need to know. Especially the deeper the pipe, the harder it is to kind of sound that down. So, but we can create a pretty significant flow, 100 gallons a minute or so down at that bleeder to bleeder line in order to help make it easier to hear something. So what they'll typically find in those applications like a T, the intersections, valves, stuff like that, there'll be kind of some rumbling going through that stuff. So get some ideas. I just unfortunately don't have anything concrete to tell you, hey, we've got these in line to come and find this stuff.
The original old drawings at that area did not show the water main coming down far enough on Aspen to reach the intersection of
Right.
Berndorf.
So we have a 3-valve cluster up on
Aspen and Grissom.
yes, that God, I was part of it. That's 15, 20 years ago. I don't remember anything from it. I can tell you, depth of pipe there is only about 6 feet deep. No, I'm misremembering. I think it might have been. Anyway, we had the gate valve wrench in there, and I'll have to look back. But I mean, it wasn't 8. I know that because our standard 8-foot wrench was operational on it. So I guess we have a lot of old mapping that doesn't show things that are in fact different now. So, but this is all part of the thought process on when I started to question if we actually even have main down there. It's
Right.
like it doesn't show it. We kind of assumed it's there because there's the bleeder at the end of 4 Aspen, which has always been assumed. I think it's even been proven to be shut off. Which retrospect, I can go shut that gate and see if we have water there and eliminate this. So that's a 5-minute project. But so I'll figure out if that bleeder is or not is not fed from. But it could be a service line that somebody just ran down to that house and put a bleeder off. So
if you turn the bleeder on at the bottom of Aspen,
Yes.
the intersection with Gretchen,
yes,
that's where that is, number 4 Aspen.
yep,
Then go up to the gate valves at Grissom and Aspen and shut it off, and the bleeder shuts off.
we know it's the
Then there's
same
got to
line.
be a water main.
There's got to be something under there, whether it's service line
That
or
would
water
save
main.
a fortune.
Yeah.
That
So
little exercise.
So I'll do that. That's no problem. Wish I had thought of that the other day, but here we are. And you switch gears. I mean, obviously, I had this thought that we're gonna find a water main 3 feet off the road shoulder, right in line with the other ones, and then you become
You
like
needed to
full
meet
on.
with us where we slow you down and
Yeah.
all these
Yeah.
good thoughts happen.
That's right. Because you do like okay now it all of a sudden became just this wide open. Then you start pulling open old maps, and you're like, well, what the hell? It's not even a main on this thing.
Well,
then I
if-
start finding service lines coming off, like things that don't indicate that we would expect to have line there. So, but that doesn't
If you
mean
shut it off and the bleeder still runs,
that changes a lot of our thoughts here.
now we have a whole bunch of new thoughts.
Because with all this deep line, we don't have any bleeders going down Bergdorf Grissom. Those are all, it's all just blow-offs down that way. The bleeder on Aspen that was Upper Aspen has been replaced. When that main got put in, replaced 2 or 3 years ago, that was a dead end. So this bleeder down on Aspen would be theoretically only controlling the pipeline from the bleeder back up to the Jungfrau PRV pit. But we've dug that in numerous places and found deep pipe. So now I'm like, damn, maybe that bleeder really is not on that line, even though it's always been assumed to be. So yeah, that's a great starting point to at least give us something. Let's see. Just put a note in.
So if the bleeder is near 4 Aspen,
Yep.
where is it, and, okay, I understand what we're gonna do, is we're gonna cut off you said there's a cutoff valve,
Isolation valve at the
Isolation.
intersection of Grissom and Aspen,
Grissom and Aspen, okay.
uphill from that bleeder.
Okay, so if that does not shut off the bleeder,
Then the water's coming another way
from
into that
Gretchen,
bleeder.
coming from Gretchen?
Yes.
Okay. So that's basically a dead end somewhere around there.
Could be that, could be where they did bury the line, we could shut it off at the Jungfrau tank real easily as well and see if that stops it. Because it could be protecting that Jungfrau tank fill line, which is essentially the same feed as Gretchen, but could kind of dictate.
You don't wanna shut it off at the Jungfrau tank unless you know that water is coming to Gretchen another way.
We'd have a 5-minute outage for those houses as we did that, just
I
to,
mean, to prove that the bleeder is not coming from Aspen, you're shutting the whole thing down,
No, we'll start with the Aspen, if that doesn't do it, I've got 2 other isolation valves we can use to try to see if we can figure out where it is,
That
in fact,
doesn't do
coming from.
if you shut off Aspen and Grissom,
Yep,
and the bleeder doesn't stop spitting water,
yep,
then we're not looking
it
to,
doesn't really matter, I guess,
No.
right.
as far as
end
this
it.
project's
Yep,
concerned,
move
we're
on.
done.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm with you.
No need to shut off
Nope,
things
it
that we
would
don't
just
need to
be-
shut off in July, is what I'm getting at.
You know what, it's a good point, yeah, let's keep it as minimal as we can.
I feel like the mayor of Amityville with the shop.
Okay, but if it dead ends around 4 Aspen, that means we won't be able to do our Bergdorf Main project to close the dead end that's on Bergdorf past the,
If the bleeder shuts off, when he shuts off the gate valve at Aspen and Grissom, then we're gonna go find the pipe.
right.
And part of the story is that, from my perspective, is this isn't the only time we've dug in that area and not found the pipe because it wasn't down, because we dug down, he dug down 11 feet on Grissom, which was backfilled in a similar way that Aspen was backfilled from the exploratory digging. But to answer your question, if he shuts the isolation valve off at Grissom and Aspen, and the bleeder still runs, that means this Bergdorf project has to dig to the intersection of Aspen and then start digging back towards the isolation valve
Right.
on Aspen. This becomes
Right.
this
bigger
doubles the size of the
Because it's a bigger
project,
project to connect with the main.
and we
Right.
have to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, so there's a possibility, there is no main between, there's 4 to where the isolation valve is somewhere on Grissom.
And
There's a
his
gap
easy
there.
test is gonna prove that one way or the other.
Okay, that's what
Right.
we need to do before any digging, yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right, that makes sense.
yep.
Okay, so I've got what we gotta do over there, which we'll get to this week. Get some information back to you guys, what we find, and hopefully it's good news, go from there.
Yeah.
Could just be a 12-foot deep main, which I don't know is good news, but it's always, at least it's there.
Well, then we know what to do.
Yeah, at least we know, at least we have something to move forward with.
Right.
Um,
And we have found them, at Appenville.
yep, young
You
Frau,
know, at
Playground
Jungfrau,
Wow.
it was,
some 12 plus
it was
feet
20,
deep.
yeah,
I
it
can't
was
remember
12,
what it
it
was.
was 12 something,
at least 12
I mean,
feet.
it was
Actually, the steward
very,
on that one too that drove by, he's like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna find that.
Yeah.
That was installed at 8 and
He dug down and
Filled-
didn't find it with the
No.
big machine.
yeah,
Right.
the big machine we couldn't reach still. So we were actually
Right.
talking about lowering the, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't.
Wow.
So anyway, there's times that they dump fill and you can tell like where virgin soil is there, and they added 6-7 feet of fill. So if they happen to put the main in first and then fill over it, you could be talking pretty significant depths.
yeah,
So,
so it could be there, we just,
yeah,
Haven't
I
found
couldn't reach it. And it's not often I get beat by these things, but it's
So
two
let's
in a
take
row.
a
It's real
second and
rough.
go past the test.
Okay.
If the test shows that there is a water main at the corner of Aspen and Bergdorf, then the next thing we're gonna do is decide what we do as far as locating that main, which requires bringing in a bigger machine. Now, we could pay to have a big machine mobilized to come in to do the exploratory dig to find the main, and then the machine leaves because there's no contract in place to start to put the water main in.
I see.
Or we could do it as part of the water main, is they bring the machine in with the intent that they're gonna start digging. And what they dig is based on starting at the intersection of Aspen and Bergdorf. Well, we'll know whether they're supposed to find the main or not. If the test fails, the project changes and they're gonna have to dig back up to the first house that's being fed off of. That's where acoustical testing to see how far the water main comes from Grisson in Aspen, comes down Aspen and stops somewhere
Yep.
short of the Bergdorf
Wow.
intersection. It would be nice to find which houses are fed further down the hill from the Grisson Aspen shutoff.
Yep.
That's where the contract starts to connect a new 4-inch main coming down Aspen, turning the corner and going down Bergdorf to
Yep.
number 5.
Yep.
No wonder I can't write this contract.
So we'll keep to, I'll get you the date that we got Granite State coming for that listening. So whatever we find, we'll know what we got going on. This is going to be a 2-hour call from us to come and meet those guys and walk and listen, and it's going to be pretty cheap money. So we'll get that figured out. We'll keep them coming either way. We'll get the because they might be able to tell us something on where they find locations and stuff. We're going to obviously test that bleeder first and foremost to see if we even expect there to be anything
Right.
under there. And again, my only concern is if they ran like a service line down or something, at the time. Or anyway, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But I'll have those guys do what they can do with the sounding equipment and go from there. Yeah, we searched. I couldn't find any information on that gate valve cluster, and if it was anything on the outlet side of it, if that's just an open valve that was just left. I don't know. So at the Grisson Aspen intersection, there's no indication as to whether
But if these tests you're gonna do immediately prove the fact that there is a water main.
Something down there.
All along Aspen,
yeah,
and it does, go past Bergdorf,
yeah.
then the sounding thing you're talking about, is that really necessary?
I think it helps.
It helps.
It helps show whoever's digging it up some idea as to where we're hearing the most volume. None of this stuff is like perfect. It's not a silver bullet, if you will, but all the pieces of information might reduce the scope of the project just by giving us some background information. So
The sure bet would be to have the project run a 4-inch main all the way back up
Right.
to the cluster at Grisson and Aspen.
replace
Now you
whatever
have a
old
4-inch
existing
main
stuff is.
feeding that area in a more efficient way, but it's expensive to get that much more 4-inch pipe.
Well,
running
the
down
bigger
Aspen.
the bigger problem is a pretty decent hill and it's on pavement, so you're not talking about a flat dirt road anymore. You're talking it does change.
Replacing
That
the
would
pavement's an
probably be
expense.
more money than your project to go past the culvert. So, the other option we have, if you want to we can rent a bigger piece of equipment and go after that and look for it to eliminate that. I mean, not right off, but after we figure out this other stuff, or like I said, have one of the guys with a bigger piece of equipment. I don't know if it's more cost.
I think it
One
makes more
way or the
sense to
other.
write it into the package, as you said, as opposed to a standalone.
You can some, well, and again, I don't. You guys, a contractor would certainly prefer that. It's easier
He's
to
trying
vary
to
some
nail
stuff.
time with them, he's trying to,
I think the only task now is
Establish.
to prove or disprove that there's a water main.
Okay, so we've got what we got for. I can get the bleeder information to the end of the week, and well, I maybe those guys are coming sooner than I think, but we'll get the listing equipment if they're it doesn't have to stop. If we figure out that bleeder does stop it and the contractor's available in a week to come in and start looking, do what you guys want to do. But if we have listing information beforehand, that might be helpful as well. So I'm just trying to think of stuff we can do to, at this point, try to minimize what we're getting into. But
Can you let me know when you're coming in to do the test of
Yeah.
the shut off?
I can tell you, I think now it's probably looking like I think Thursday. But yes, I'll let you know when we're doing it.
Good.
Yeah, because that should let you start the contract as to whether or not we need to add additional water main.
Right, but if there is a water main on Aspen, then we're just going back to the original scope of the project we've been discussing for months now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Yeah, we just know they're gonna have to dig
Deeper.
deeper
I
to
get
find it.
I get it.
Then it's a matter of whether we go back to installing the isolation valves at either end of
Right.
the project or not, or whether at this point we have the contractor do all the digging.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we got the one on the far end of the culvert, we were able to find that pipe, only about 7 feet deep, so.
And what road was,
You
just,
talking about number 5, where the water main ends, the current one,
For,
Habitat?
no, the other side of the road, the Grisson side, where we were trying to put 2 curb valves in on that, we didn't find the one on the closer side to Aspen, we never found the main, the other side located and installed the valve on there, so we do.
The
have-
house that's on the other side that didn't get the valve is on the water system.
Yes.
They are.
As far as we know, you guys didn't find it's not on a well or anything.
paying
You found
money.
a curb valve.
No,
They
they're paying.
Okay,
so-
yeah, I mean, we got a curb valve coming down through the woods,
Yeah.
so.
We've yet to find anybody who paid the fee and didn't have water.
That's good. I mean, most people would pick up on that, you know,
Yeah.
be like,
Oh,
why are you
yeah.
charging me? I have a well.
Yeah.
so the
But you never
isolation,
know.
so the isolation valve you did install was on Grisson, going on the opposite side of the,
Heading towards 113, if you will.
13 on the opposite, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, toward 28, okay.
Yep. So that one's in, pretty normal, kind of as expected outside of just, you know, crumbling in, and that was, you know, just, yeah, odd situation on the other side of it, so. Okay, so yeah, we'll let you know when we're coming in, we'll see what we find, and, you know, try to get some more gainful information in your hands to talk to a contractor with.
So let's put that whole project aside
Yep,
now.
we got our
What
notes
else,
for that.
what else we have?
I don't know that it's a hot button issue, as we talked about the other day, you have your uranium stuff, you guys, I don't know, did you see your most recent testing come through?
Yep.
So that was great.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, I was hesitant to comment to people that we're now seeing that well pass.
Right,
The
it's been
tests.
off and on, I mean, we've had positive and negative
Because people, it
samples.
was just within a week and a half ago that somebody asked me, somebody put out on social media, so what is everybody doing about this uranium problem at their house? And I had to jump in and say, we haven't used that well since November 26th.
Yeah,
And then I commented that I'm drinking the water every day, and that made them happy.
Yeah.
So to stir the conversation up and make people think that anything has changed
Correct,
isn't worth it.
gotcha,
right.
yeah, yeah,
Because
no,
we still
I
wanna put in
totally
the
understand.
mitigation
We're gonna put it in.
You
equipment.
were,
Yes.
you were about half to 2/3 to 3/4 of the limit, it's not like it was, you know, non-existent, I think the concept is still very good, you
If
know.
we don't do it, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen again.
I think that our recent testing has shown that it goes up and down,
Yeah.
whereas for years it was kind of hovering.
Right,
It's kind of bouncing around, so who knows what the end point of it will be, but yeah, you know, you get something, I mean, the good news is the less you're pulling out, the longer that equipment lasts, so, you know, you just kind of.
Right.
And another argument, if I recall correctly, the water source or aquifer, whatever you wanna call it, is the same one that Rock House draws from, and they've already got uranium.
I imagine there's but yeah, you're down on the same neck of the woods, I actually don't know if it's the exact same aquifer, but I can tell you, all of Madison, it's not uncommon to have uranium issues, so, you know, I think your DPW well is because it's 60-foot deep well, you got a bed, you know, you're not drilled down into the bedrock 300 feet, you're sitting on top of the bedrock with that's why you're not getting uranium out of that well. If you drilled down another 150 feet and got into the fissures of the bedrock, you'd probably get uranium out of that one too. You're essentially catching a river running on top of that's why it's such a high production too. It's like running on top of the bedrock. So it hasn't really had an opportunity to see that nefarious stuff. So yeah, most of the wells in Madison have not trace as high amounts of uranium.
So I think we've already decided, it's a plan we have to go ahead with, because it's an inevitability, it will
Yeah.
positive.
It'll be in and out, and at minimum, you're always gonna have a presence of it, whether it's over the limits or not, that's a whole different ball of wax. But,
We're putting the treatment system in this
Yeah.
year,
Yes.
what we decided.
yes, and I think we should,
He's given us information about 2 options of just buying the equipment at a certain dollar,
right.
not the total cost of the project,
no, the numbers I gave you guys was installed. That's completed project,
okay?
yeah.
So we should review that in a non-public session,
yes,
because it's at the point that a decision from us is the gating factor,
Yeah,
because of what he just said, that
Right.
he
He's
Right.
just waiting,
in there.
waiting to hear from us, yep.
Alright,
Outside of that, I know you get the question on the 2 connections, we got those for the 9th and 10th.
Yeah.
We originally had one of them today, but it just, weather and timing and stuff didn't work out, so,
Okay.
we had to push that back, but anyway, it's, so we get the 9th and 10th will be in here to do that. Those are the only 2 open ones, correct?
That-
Cause I saw more lots getting, like Bergdorf was getting cleared, and I don't know if anyone's put in other
Nope,
applications.
not yet.
but- Okay. Did you supply us with like a lot design on that with like the septic location and stuff on those houses? Do you know?
No,
Okay,
I did not.
so
But
if,
you're looking at, I mean, I don't know how to even present it to you.
just say, whatever they put in, we just need, so what we wanna have, so when we're a big blank lot, when you see a house on it, but.
Well,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, we gotta know where they're intending to put their septic, so we don't put our stuff anywhere near where they're intending to
So
put
are
their
you
stuff.
looking for the septic design?
Yeah,
Okay, but a lot of times these are,
cause you guys approve based off that too, right?
Is your problem is you have a big hard copy?
Correct.
And how do you get it electronically
Correct.
to him?
yes.
Oh, gotcha. You get like, I get a big
Yeah.
36 by 24. They should have a digital copy as well. They can supply you with. Who you just send me the info. I'll talk to the contractor on it. Yeah, I'll get it. 'Cause,
Or can't you just come up and just take a
we're-
picture of it?
What's that?
Can't you just come and take a picture
I mean,
of
we
it?
like to have it for our files because at the end of the day, I
I
guess I
see.
can do that. If you want to send me a
Yeah.
picture, that's certainly better than nothing. We got into the habit because we were finding a lot of houses that were squishing a house onto a lot that just really couldn't put the house and a septic and a water line. I mean,
Wow.
by setback, we demand 10 feet.
Oh, yeah, right.
10 feet minimum,
Yeah.
25 without.
Yeah.
Obviously, everything gets sleeved. That's part of the everything gets sleeved policy. But I mean, some of the places going in were bad, and we'd already approved it, and it's like now it was out of my hands. I just got it approved, and you guys, well, it wasn't you guys, but the form board, we had to. You couldn't go back and eat your words. You already
Wow.
approved them. They'd move forward, so now we're stuck, and I'm literally got curb valves that are, I mean, like in leach fields almost. So it's like this is a problem. So they started. We part of the application process was submitting us because those guys change everything too and don't tell you. Like they'll all of a
Yeah.
sudden decide they want to. Oh, here's the septic and the house is here, and then they go like that. And our water lines are no. You guys, you show up for a site inspection and they've decided to flip flop the house and the septic, and it's no, you can't do that. So now we have that hard copy that says any changes they have to present it back to you guys. They can't just do it in the field, and they got to resupply a new septic design if they decide to move. It doesn't matter if it's a foot. It's like if you're moving where that thing is, because sometimes it's very close to. We don't want septics within 25 feet of our water main or 10 feet of our pipeline. Really 25 feet of the curb valve. So
Yeah.
you can sleeve it, but you still can't be within 25 feet of the curb. So that's why we need to.
There's a lot that's been approved for septic design on Burn that is so wet
Yeah.
that there's cat o' nine tails occupying the center of the lot,
Mind blowing.
and that's gonna be a problem. We have to watch that one because
Okay.
that usually indicates that they're gonna figure out where they put the leach field is gonna have to be very close to the road. Therefore, we
And
have to have
raised.
heads up of where this service
And we
line
know where
is.
our water main is on that one. If I'm assuming it's the lot that just got cleared. If you're.
It is a cleared lot, and the grass is up high, and the cat o' nine tails.
It's like the one that's next door to the habitat, right? It's the next one down, I think. Like heading towards Aspen. Anyway, there's only one cleared lot that I'm aware of on Burn.
When you
but-
say habitat,
Wait, did you say Burn or
Burn.
Bergdorf? I'm thinking Bergdorf. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burn.
Burn.
Yeah,
Gotcha. I think I
So-
know the one you're talking about on that one too.
yeah.
So yeah, that's the whole point, is they show us where they're intending to put their septic, and they'll show it in the back. They'll get their septic design, they'll approve it, or whatever, and then they'll flip it, because in reality it won't work, and now we've got a curb valve sitting 4 feet from where they're now planning to put their leach field, which is like, nope, can't do it. So it's given us a lot of knowledge when we go to meet the contractors and know that we're not, they're not just, I got a stake where this is going, and that's it. It's like, no, we got an actual plan that you're expected to follow, because they show where they're in, like, hey, this is where we want you to put the curb valve, because that's the other thing that would happen, is like, we show up to a blank lot, and it's like, well, we got 100, let's think of the one on, Sarnin and Burn or whatever we're about to do, that it's like, you got 100 feet in both directions, you can tap that main, like, well, where do they want it, it's like, so that design also gives us an inclination as to where they're expecting us to put it, where their driveway's intending to go, all that stuff, so we don't end up. So anyway, the lot design's a good, we need to have it in our hands before we go and drop the curb valve in. Outside of that, I got nothing new and fun,
The new computer working well?
yeah, Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, I haven't actually popped on to see if there's any active alarms that aren't calling out, but,
Have you gotten an alarm?
I was getting alarms, yeah,
Are you
Nice.
getting alarms?
yeah.
I did not.
So I got them, it's been, I think it was like tester alarms, just look right now if I reset them, cause the thing with that is if you,
But he wouldn't know which system is sending in the alarms, which PC. Because my understanding
Oh,
is
is
they
there-
didn't take the old PC off.
oh, gotcha.
So you wouldn't know either.
No,
You-
no.
I mean,
All
the
you
Win
know is whether
911
they took the old PC offline yet.
So they kinda have
They
one
did not.
running parallel to the old one, so that if there was a problem, we didn't just
Correct.
axe ourselves. Good.
Correct, so I
Well,
think,
one-
One's not protected, the whole point of it is
But,
the new one's
yeah.
protected and the old one isn't.
yeah, so I'm thinking if if it's using the new one, as far as I know, it's using the new one, we should be shutting the old one off.
I kinda owe Aaron a call just to touch base with him and see, he's the kid that came in and did this, right?
Yes.
I just wanna catch up with him and this stuff that you're telling me right now, I'll get from him and I wanna, get his number and make sure we're all on the same page and he'll be my new contact from what I understand it with
Yes.
DII, so I'll get all that figured out with him and,
Okay, and, yeah, cause like I
I'll
said,
see
we
where
wanna
he's
shut
at.
we wanna shut the old one off as soon as we can.
yeah, and I wanna be, very privy to what he's got going on with that, so that if stuff goes a little wonky, I know that, like,
Right.
and we don't wanna do it this weekend, maybe we'll wait for next weekend, but, let's see, historical alarm summary. Yeah, anything we have here was all stuff that we had previously gotten, so I'm gonna reset all these, see if any of them decide to redial. But yes, as
The fact that you
all in all,
didn't
it's
get them,
working.
I saw my email on a piece of paper, like, I'm supposed to get the alarms too.
Right, cause
I
there's,
have not
there's
been
the,
getting
the
emails.
call
It's
in.
been a call out.
Right, there's the call out, and then there's supposed to be an email that follows.
That I don't think I'm getting.
Yeah,
And-
so I'm not believing
And I
your
don't think
system
any
is-
of us are
Okay.
getting,
Now I did get the Win 911 call, so I got the
you got the
yeah.
call out.
which I can acknowledge from the phone, which is
Okay.
really nice. It tells me what it is, and if I have to go on the computer, I will. But
Right.
whatever it might be.
Yes.
But yeah, the follow up email is actually pretty important as well.
Yes.
So you can
Yeah, so
have a
we'll,
record of it.
so if you're gonna be talking to Aaron, then,
Well, we shouldn't leave it that Ian's the one that's,
Yep.
the only one talking to them about this.
I'll reach out to him.
Having this discussion means that we should be asking them
okay,
what up.
we can do
want
that,
this switched over as soon as possible.
yes.
We're getting bulletins now from the state,
Yeah,
all kinds of different
Yep,
sources.
yep, we- well, there's always threats out there, but there seems to be a heightened threat going on, so,
Yeah, about, and just so I mean, I'll get this from him, but the way you guys understand it is we have the old computer operating, the new computer operating parallel to it, but we haven't made the full switch over to the new one. We're kind of
Correct.
processing off the new one
Right,
with the old one as a backup, but we're ready to kind of
We
snip the
want
cord.
the old one shut off as
Yeah.
soon as
as
possible.
soon as we can.
they
Yeah,
have to
about-
come back into the office.
You have to
There
use
is
those
the-
words, Ian.
What's that?
We want the old one shut off as soon as
We
possible.
want the old one shut off as soon as
Yeah.
possible. All right. $100 and
So I'm
getting
told that they come back, they're,
old
but they never
computer.
tell me when they're coming back.
shut off as soon as possible. Yeah, if you're okay with that, Jen, I'll reach out to him and I would like to come meet him over here and see what he's got going on.
Oh,
So
that
I'll
would
let
be
you know
great.
when we're
Yeah.
planning that. Schedule site meeting. Okay, so we got that one on the docket. Yeah, other than that, we're just, kind of construction season, getting through whatever's coming up here. Those guys did a great job on that line replacement over on Altdorf, so that's good. We like when people do a good job and they make it easy on us, so that was great. So, yeah.
So
No, our usage ticked up, normal, 100,000, 95,000 gallons per day in the summer, we saw the tick up. I mean, if we see anything much past that outside of definitive, we typically will wait for sustained, not like 4th of July weekend, 145,000 gallons a day, as long as it drops back down to 90 afterwards, we assume everybody came up. But that's been pretty normal, nothing to go over there. I mean, obviously we know we've got some water loss out there, but nothing nothing new. We typically in the fall will go through and do a shutdown and see if we have any large loss and get the leak detection in and go through that. But honestly, our usage was as good as it's been in a long time in the last, calendar year. So nothing there. So that, yeah, just kind of these ongoing projects trying to get it figured out. So nothing new on you guys' end.
It's always something.
Well, yeah, I know that.
Your equipment's parked,
Yep. Are you guys okay with that?
well, if you could pull it a little bit away from the edge of the protected wellhead.
Gotcha.
Because we have a water operator that's concerned about.
I'll move it over to the other side of the driveway. Just trying to keep it out of their way, so that's good though.
Yeah,
So I'll
I
get
thought
that out
you
of the
were
zone.
giving them a big zone, but
Yeah, that's good. I'll move that.
I was thinking you probably have hydraulic fluid and
Oh, yeah.
antifreeze
Diesel
and diesel and
Grease,
Right.
all the stuff. We'll get that out of there. We'll get that moved. Cool.
Anything else for Ian?
No?
Nope, I just wanted to see how the new setup was working.
The computer.
Computer system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
a big thing.
As far as I know, it's at least calling out, dialing out, which is great. It's been a long time since we had that.
That's better
so
than it was for a long time, so.
Just gives you some inclination what the hell's going on.
Yes.
Less surprises. So, cool. Well, I'll let you know. So I get those couple things. I'll let you know what we're looking at. I'll let you know when we're coming in for that bleeder. See what's going on with that. I'll let you know. Actually, it might even be. Are you available this afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty quick. So they're going to be up here. I might have them do it.
At
when-
2 o'clock, I'm meeting Jeff.
Okay.
So I'm definitely in the village, but I'm busy with him from 2 to 3.
Okay. Let me just see here. I don't think they're intending in here. Yeah, that should be fine. So I'm not exactly sure which day it is, but worst case scenario is gonna be Thursday. Because we'll be back in to do checks on Thursday before the weekend. So we'll do that shut off at minimum then. I'll let you know about what time we're coming in. I'll let you know what we got for sounding equipment, if and when that's, when that's planning to come in, and if it makes sense to still do it based
Okay.
off if if they're already excavating, then it's kind of like, it doesn't really matter
Yeah,
at that point.
Right.
I'm not, I
What
don't
you
think
watch
that's
on?
a big priority, yeah.
All right, it works. It's worked out pretty good in the past. So it can give you something. And like I said, it's pretty small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. But if we're saying, hey, let's not do it, then that's fine too.
What I'm afraid of is that it's a 1-inch line that's come down.
I'm
from
a
it.
little worried about it too, if I'm being honest with you.
It's almost
So-
like we have to dig up the Grissom cluster.
Well, honestly, with this, and again, I don't want to act like I'm some professional with dowsing lines, but I'm picking up 3 lines out in that area, and it's like, fuck, because there's like service lines running down to the individual houses, because they dive off in the woods, and I'm like, that wasn't even really a thought until, again,
But there's a lot of underground water running.
there is, and it for the most part it picks up like a trench line, if you will, like a ground to earth, and it's soft, easy, or culverts or trench lines, underground power. Any of that stuff's gonna get your dowsing
You know
rods to pop
that,
open.
you know that Stewart hit groundwater when he was digging test holes.
Where?
To the point,
Over on Grissom,
on Bergdorf.
on
On
Bergen.
Bergdorf.
Bergdorf.
Gotcha.
He actually we had to bring gravel in because it was so wet.
It's not. I mean, I have notes on some because we were pulling cards and stuff. I mean, we had lines on Grissom. I was in groundwater at 3.5 feet deep. Now I didn't actually check Bergdorf that much, but the it's a wetish area over there. That's not crazy. So that's unfortunate because that makes the project harder when he's going to run the
Yeah.
line. But not totally surprising. So get that and cool. Computer, I'll get Aaron we'll get that scheduled, and I'll let you know when we're coming into the office for that.
Anything else?
No?
Excellent. All right,
you.
guys, have a great
good
afternoon.
4th of July.
Thank you.
Thank
Same to
you,
you. Have fun.
Always.
always. Thank you, guys.
At 10:23, we'll go to the commissioners' reports. The main thing I've been working on, I already talked about the FEMA stuff in New Hampshire. The auction went off well. I went to the Lintons and picked up the check for the $20,100. Did you get the receipt in the envelope
something.
today?
Yep.
Up there?
Yeah.
And Jennifer gave me a deposit slip yesterday morning, and I ran it to the bank, and that's in the bank.
Very good.
So we have the advance from FEMA at $42,000 as extra cash flow in the bank, and the $42,000 for the auction is a credit that we can't spend it, but we can use it as cash flow.
But the FEMA advance again was for the design work only, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that's an interesting, that's still 75%, which is an interesting thing, is that they advanced us 42,000, which means to use all of that money would be spending another 25%, because our share has to be 25% against their 75%. So they're estimating that the engineering for this thing, which should be 60 grand. Well, you get the idea.
Yeah, I get the idea, yeah.
So, we'll see how that goes. We're not gonna do anything with that until the fall is the plan.
Right.
And you saw that to get to wrap up the whole thing with the land auction, it needs the merger, which we now know needs a deed.
Yes,
So I am going to create a deed with the idea that if Linda can notarize it, that next week we would sign it here in front of Linda, who could witness that we signed it and notarize it.
I see.
Then it goes to the Cal County Registry of Deeds and gets recorded. And would pay the stamps and ask the Littons to refund us the money for the stamps. They have to, in parallel, once the deed has been created, which they'll get a copy of, then they have to do the request for the notice of merger from the town at the next planning board meeting. They're meeting tomorrow night, tomorrow at 7. And nothing will be ready for that, but
No.
I now know what we have to do, and I'll inform the Littons of what they have to do and get this all squared away next month.
so the thought would be that hopefully we can have it in front of the planning board for the August meeting?
Right.
Sounds good.
And the administrators did a good job of explaining to me how Kate got me that message of how this is all
Yes.
done, so that was good. So
So
that's all.
there's no existing deed right now.
No,
Yeah.
I've been going through the registry of deeds,
Yeah.
and phew, it's fascinating. I found a deed from A. Crosby Kennett, between A. Crosby Kennett and the Great Northern Land Corporation in 1965. And they were describing a transfer of land, and the deed described where the land was. They talked about this thing called the Aspen Cottage as a parcel. There were parcels that had names. So I don't know what it looked like before they divided this up. But they described the land as running 1,700 feet to a big rock with a white birch tree. And from there it turned southeast and went to
No.
land supposedly, the word supposedly was in the deed, owned by Arthur Baldock. And I went, holy cow.
Oh my. A deed that
So-
refers to
That's
a bird,
very old.
Where is the
to
registry?
a tree and
Is that a Carroll County or
Wow.
is that Carroll County?
It's in the same building as the Sheriff's Department and the Cal County Commissioners, and so anyway, I thought I'd just
Okay.
throw a little color in for that. You don't have to put that in minutes.
No.
So
That is funny though.
I'm working on the deed and the FEMA stuff and so forth. So that's my report.
Okay.
Not much to report other than that bracket for that monitor came in. I delivered it to the office yesterday. So
Yep.
it's there for
Bracket with an R.
whatever. Yeah, the packet.
Okay? And you
Oh.
talked about the dam.
Oh, well, we talked about that, and then the other thing is, probably not a discussion for now, but like, as I was alluding to, is once our, new highway and road ordinance is in place, what measures can we take to help enforce that? Like, can like a citizen take a picture, like if I caught a picture of that yesterday? I don't know. That may not be of a discussion for right now. But I could tell you who was hauling that thing.
And it's a police issue if somebody's overweight.
Yeah.
It is not a district issue.
So all we
So
can do is
yes,
report it.
you certainly can report it and send a picture. and then it goes, then it's whatever the police can or cannot do. But for overweight, it is a police issue.
Okay, well, in yesterday's instance, there was no way I could take a picture because I was driving, but I
Right.
did see the name of the hauling company. So,
Yeah.
okay, all right, just,
I would think you could let them know, and they could at least keep an eye out for things like that,
okay,
you know?
I imagine they could
Yeah.
give a warning too.
Pulling in after like 5 o'clock in the evening is.
Well, they do it intentionally.
I'm gathering that.
Yeah, it's just lots of people do it intentionally because they figure the DPW people aren't around,
Correct,
you know?
yep.
Scurvy dogs.
Are you all set?
Yeah.
So do you have a report?
Yeah, most of it's under signature items, but the other questions that I have we'll get to on the profit and loss. There were a few things that I wasn't sure where they're allocated currently
Correct.
and where we should have them allocated
Yep.
moving forward. And my guess is you probably have the exact same
Yeah.
spots.
Probably, yep, great.
Okay, so we'll stop on the commissioners' reports and cover all that stuff when we get to those
Yes.
lines.
Okay,
And we have no scheduled public appearance today. So we have a lot owner in a class 6 that's way overdue to meet with us and discuss what's going on with that lot
Correct.
and the driveway permit, so.
yep,
Oh, yes.
The one on Tussis?
yeah,
Yes.
No, not Tussis.
No.
Edelbode.
Edelbode, near Tussis, yeah. Thusis, excuse me.
So we'll deal with that next week. And so we'll go into the administrator's report, and you wanna talk about Island Drive first?
sure.
So at 10:32, we'll do the administrator.
Sure. Okay, so I guess I'll start it off, and it's not on the agenda because it was just something that happened right prior to this meeting.
Actually, it is on the agenda, you wrote it in there.
Yeah, that was for you.
Oh, did- okay.
So you wouldn't
Yeah, I didn't
forget.
get
Yeah, mine doesn't say anything.
No, it
No.
wouldn't. I only had time to write it on Mark since he still wrote it. Okay. Anyway, I'm getting inquiries from potential, interested buyers of property, specifically, can I say specifically which property it is?
Outside of Idlewise.
It's outside of Idlewise, that are inquiring because the wording on the Realtor's description of the property indicates that they have rights to the ponds on Idlewise.
Ponds, yes.
And so, you know, I'm giving them the same response that that's incorrect, this particular property that, it's the third call I've gotten regarding it. In no way, you know, was granting them access if there was any kind of,
Are you getting multiple calls from people concerning the same advertisement for the same property?
yeah,
It's the one property being advertised that
Yeah.
has
that's correct,
what the industry calls weasel words.
yes.
That may, it doesn't talk about which pond, it says Pete Parge ponds, there's nothing named Pete Parge ponds. There's little Pete Parge pond, there's middle Pete Parge pond, and there's big Pete Parge pond.
Right,
So the advertisement that's causing people to call her is outside of Idlewise, refers to Pete Parge Pond, which doesn't say which pond they're talking about, and refers to a private beach that's shared by an association.
yes,
That is not anything to do with Idlewise.
Idlewise.
That's
It's
not an
not, yes.
Idlewise beach, it has
Right.
nothing to do with the Idlewise Property Owners Association. There is a private beach on Big Pea Porridge Pond that's outside of the Village District of Idlewise, that's owned by an association that is outside the Village District of Idlewise. And that's what I believe these weasel words are referring to. So the problem is that people are reading this and tying up the Idlewise taxpayers' money in the fact that the office is being tied up with repeated calls by people that want her to testify that they have rights to things they don't have rights to inside of Idlewise
Right,
before they decide to buy this property.
correct.
So they're putting here in a realtor's position, even though a realtor is causing this problem for us by the way that they're improperly describing this property, with enough vagueness to make people believe they should call Idlewise to confirm.
Yeah.
So she needs an answer from us on how to professionally cut these conversations off in a short amount of time.
If they're calling about a property outside the village district of Idlewise, then we have nothing to do with, to do with their questions. We can't answer their questions. They either need to talk to the realtor, or either Rock House, because I believe,
I don't think we're
Yeah.
obligated to have
I don't think we
our
need to do
staff
anything.
give advice on what they should do.
No.
They should be.
No,
it
just
should
tell
be-
them it's outside of Idlewise, so therefore we have nothing to say. It's not an Idlewise issue. It's outside of Idlewise,
Period.
sorry, end.
Now that has to be something that you find you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
So is that good enough of an answer?
It is.
Okay. Do you need a vote on that?
No, I
Okay.
do not.
No.
I just need it to kind of stop.
Yes,
That's where getting into a conversation that starts to go away from a clear-cut thing is that it's not our business, we have nothing to say on that.
Right,
It gets, getting into talk to Rock House Mountain, now you're.
Right, now you're giving
opening
advice.
up other
Right.
cans of worms.
right, we don't wanna do that.
right.
Yep,
But they're generally looking for me to commit to that they have access to, and
You can firmly
Can't
say if
do
you're
that.
not in the village district of Ottawa, you don't have
Period.
access to these
Period.
things.
right,
and that's what I've been telling them.
right.
So that's, you also had on here, the profit and loss statements, right? So we're gonna review that now.
Sure.
And which do you wanna start with, the Excel budget? And we'll go down the left side of the page, which is the combined highway and water, which will give you the differentials.
You mean on the right side?
Yeah, the right side
I
combined.
believe, he meant the right?
Yeah, the right side, yeah, the right. And we are exactly at the halfway mark of the year.
We are,
And if we look at what was budgeted combined, the first line item is salaries of officers. We're just at about exactly halfway. And the administrator's salary, looks like we're halfway. A little bit more. And we haven't spent any money on a contract office administrator. The audit, we haven't got a bill for the audit at all, so we haven't
No?
spent any money on that.
Yeah, that just came in, so,
You just got a bill from the
yes,
auditor?
I did.
Is it for a partial amount or a full?
Yeah, it's for a partial amount, but it's the big portion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Supplies were about half. Printing dues, advertisements, we've, only spent $622 out of $31.50. Travel conference, we haven't spent any money. Equipment and maintenance, we've spent $158 out of $2,550. Safety issues, we have a budget of $500, we haven't spent any of that. Bonus money, we have 200 out of the 1590 total.
Well, that'll go up a little.
Why?
Oh,
We're halfway through,
right,
so.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of the bonuses, that's just admin bonus, okay, never mind.
Financial administration payroll, we've spent $1,228 out of the $4,300 we have budgeted, so we're well under budget there. So maybe I'll do subtotals instead of going down through each one of these.
Yeah,
So under employee benefits, on the left-hand side of the page, we have a combined budget of $103,268, and we have spent $48,562. So we're well under
50%.
50% on that.
Yeah, knowing that the big bill for the property liability insurance is due in July.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ones that we were talking about as far as setting it for,
Payable in
Cash flow.
August. That's the one where the bill is dated July 1st, but it has 45 days to pay,
Yeah, well,
the Primex bill.
yeah,
Where the bond, the other big payment in July, the
it's
bond,
the 15th.
is July
has to
15th.
be ACH'd on the 15th.
Correct.
Okay, so, under general government buildings, the budget is $30,485, we've spent $12,000. So we're well under half that amount of money. And under insurance, we have a budget of $73,637, we haven't spent any of that. That's the Primex bill that we're
Yep.
talking about.
Yep, that's the one that's coming in.
Regional Association is mostly spent, that's the dues for the municipal association. For miscellaneous training and the stipend for the keepers of the checklist, we have a budget of $2,350, we've only spent $1,100 of that. Highway and streets, go to the subtotal on that. And we have a budget of $50,000 and we have only spent $11,483, $418.30. So we're about
20%.
yeah. And the next category is trucks, which includes fuel and that's, actually I just read the trucks subtotal, right?
Right, the truck subtotal was the 50,000 budget,
Right.
of which we spent 11,418.
So the category, the bottom line of this one is the highway and streets total. Actually, it's a subtotal of,
Yeah, it's hard to tell without being on the spreadsheet.
yeah,
which
we go from a
ones-
truck subtotal and then we get into adding fuel, salt, sand, culvert basins and other asphalt, and that has a subtotal of $410.22, and we've only spent $129,000. So we're about 1/3 of that budget, so that's in good shape. And the next subtotal is for street lightings, park and recreation, and principal bond payments. We have a budget of $77,000. Actually, this gets split
Yeah, these
with
is
water.
Mhm.
So now we go to the right side of the page and the total subtotal is $90,334, of which we've spent $21,000, so we're about 1/4 of that budget.
We saw the Rhinoc tank.
Yeah, I've
No,
got
that-
questions on that,
What kind of questions?
because I'm very confused as to, like, what we actually paid out on the water tank loan, as far as on the water side, where nothing was applied on the operations side. And maybe that's how it's supposed to be,
It is.
okay?
The Rhinoc tank project was a warrant article that was voted by the voters to be paid out of the taxes, not the water system.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the second line,
So-
the second loan is the 2018
Right,
tank loan, and that is paid for by water.
I would change the
so-
Rhineac tank to the Rhineac tower. Take the word tank out of it, cause it's not a tank, it's called a tower. And stop the confusion between that 2018 water tank loan and the name of the Rhineac Tower warrant article. Do you see what I'm saying? Jennifer's using the word tank.
Right,
If we use tower for one and tank for the other, it's clearer as to what we're talking about. Should we move down to the subtotal for bond hyphen interest,
Sure.
which includes the payments for the Ram, the 2019 Ram truck? I assume the 2018 is paid for. The Rhineac Tower, and the 2018 water tank loan. On the right side of the page, the combined subtotal is $40,604, of which we've spent $20,000, so half. Tan, we hope to not spend any of this $4,000. But it's there in case we need it in December,
correct,
and everything works out this month.
correct.
And then the next part is water services. We have a subtotal on the the right side of the page of $183,110, of which was spent $49,833.
Mhm.
So we're about a quarter of that total budget spent.
Combined,
Yep.
I came up with a 30%.
We're nowhere near being in trouble with that kind of.
Yeah, let me make sure I got everything here.
So the grand total at the bottom of the page, that goes into the next page.
Yeah, it's a duplicate, it's a
Okay.
heading. That's-
So the total combined water and highway has a budget of $1,780,007, of which was spent $324,600.
That was my 30% calculation, the
Okay.
32.4 divided by the 1,078.
So would you say
30%.
we're in pretty good shape on all these budgets?
I would say so. Now, some of the big dues, you said the Rhineac Tower comes due in, that's a big one, 50,000 in
July,
July. And then what's the other big one, insurance?
the insurance,
Okay.
yep,
So the Rhineac Tower is, we also say that's the bond payment. That's the only bond we have to the bond bank. That's where that payment's going.
yes,
right? So, that is an ACH transfer that has to happen on July 15th. And that can be done by the treasurer or one of us, because we have signatures on file with the bank. And I think Dinah plans on doing it, so.
Yeah.
Anything else about the budget you need to see?
Just speaking about TAN, I was reading the emails you got with the gentleman from Northway Bank. Saw the interest rate,
Camden National.
Camden National, excuse me, former Northway Bank. So he gave us an interest rate, but if we were going to pursue a TAN with him, we still have to go through all those, what was that called, the
bond
process,
council,
bond council.
yes,
Okay, so that's still, he hasn't pulled that requirement away from us.
no, if, I would think that if we find ourselves in a position where we need to actually look at taking a TAN, we'll be looking at a different bank.
Okay. All right. Well, I said I would start talking to banks about that. Last week I said I'd do that, but he keeps communicating with us, I go, maybe because of the conversations you had, maybe he said, oh, maybe that's not necessary, but that's probably out of his.
No,
He-
as a matter of
that's
fact, let me tell you,
out of
let me give you a
jurisdiction.
little background on that. I kinda got a little frustrated, I don't like Camden National Bank, because he was not gonna tell me the interest rate until I told him that we had a bond council committed. And for a customer that has over $500,000 cash in his bank, for him to be playing games with, like, I'm not even gonna tell you the interest rate until you tell me you've gone out and found a bond counsel. So I said to him, so we need to get this bond counsel, which I have never seen in the 40 years I've been involved with this government. You were the first bank that's making us get bond counsel. And you're saying this is because you're making this sound like it's a feature because you're underwriting it. You keep telling me you're underwriting this loan where Northway didn't underwrite the loan. What benefit is it to us that you're underwriting the loan? He said, none. It's a benefit to Camden National Bank. So we're incurring this task that's really involved with an open-ended cost, as far as we know, above. And he's not even gonna tell me the interest rate until he leads me into having bond counsel ready to go on this. So then he said to me, can you confirm to me what the term is for the amount? Now, he's already been told, his bank has been told by Dinah leading into this what this is. So I just said, thanks for your attention, I'm done talking to you. And then he decided to send me an email with the interest rate. So if the board continues to want to talk to Camden National Bank, it probably should be one of you two.
Not about 10.
I'd be more interested in seeing whether there are more customer-friendly banks.
Yeah.
Yes,
So that's where that is.
yes.
So the Village District of Idlewild Board isn't too thrilled with Bank of New Hampshire or Camden National Bank.
Another one, or?
There seems to be a trend here. Can we find a good bank? Enough on that?
Enough on that.
Do you think it would be required that we still need a tan at this point?
I don't know. Well, I'll confirm with Linda where she is with
Yeah.
having a check cut for
Yeah.
this one, and we'll keep the door open because I'm not sure what
Right.
we'll analyze where we are before we get to December, whether we're in need for any kind of loan for that.
Okay,
But I think we're in pretty good shape. The same way we're in good shape with cash flow now, I think we're gonna be in good shape in December, but we'll need to verify that in the end of October time period. Alright, so,
may I ask one more question? When I'm doing the operating manifests weekly, and how I'm splitting out that FEMA payment, cause I wanna keep it separate from the actual like balance I want
the
you to.
advance from
No,
FEMA,
right.
yeah?
Should I do the same with the, green space payment?
I think that's a good note
Okay,
for us to,
so
I
it's
thought we
not
already
part
voted
of
that
the-
that's gonna be an offset.
We have,
So since
she's
it's,
asking whether she prints it. I don't know if you noticed
on
that
a
she put it on
display.
at the
On the
bottom of the
manifest.
manifest.
oh,
She has
okay,
the reconciled, or the yet to be reconciled bank statement. She's putting a separate note there that there's a advance from
FEMA.
FEMA.
of the 42,000 for the A&E of Grisson's culvert. She's asking whether she should also have a separate one saying the credit amount of the 20,100 from the auction should also be listed there to show, here's the cash flow that's in the bank,
Right.
that's part of our operating budget. Here's an additional cash that's from the advance from FEMA.
FEMA.
Here's a third separate note that there's a 20,000 in there that's actually in the unassigned fund balance, but is in the bank.
it's in the bank.
That wasn't there at the beginning of the year in the unassigned fund balance. Because it's revenue.
It's revenue. So FEMA, I think we should definitely keep separate.
Correct,
Since the auction is income and we're already voted to put it as
you did,
offset to taxes, I don't necessarily see that it needs to be separated.
okay,
It's a note to remind us what the cash flow is doing. On her manifest, she's showing what the most recent bank statement says is in cash.
Yeah.
she's showing the advance from FEMA as another note about cash that's
Yeah,
not part of the bank
separate
statement.
from, right,
Except it will be, right? It will show up in bank statements now.
Yeah, yeah, once
Of
we
course it
deposit,
will.
of course it will.
well, it will show up on the bank statement, but I can yet keep it split out so you can visually see, like, cause I expect there are gonna be other FEMA payments. It's just a way to kinda keep track of,
Those are gonna be reimbursements that can be,
oh, the ones coming up, right?
that was an
that's a catch-
advance that
it's an
surprised
advance.
me.
Right, gotcha.
So if you don't wanna account for it that way, that's fine too.
Yeah, no, like I said, the FEMA stuff definitely.
Okay, good.
That makes sense
That
because
cash
we
advance one,
wanna
yeah.
protect that cash advance because we wanna have that available when we're
When we use
to,
it for the
when we're getting
actual-
ready to spend it.
Right,
And on the subject of voting that the auction money offsets taxes, we did that before we saw what was happening with cash flow in the TAN. And the conclusion is if we can stay away from TANs in the way the town stays away from TANs by having a greater amount of unassigned fund balance, that would be contrary to the idea of already voting to use it to offset taxes, because now it's not part of the unassigned fund balance. You follow me?
yeah, it gets a
I
little
think so.
sticky.
I just had an idea for the cash flow statement though, just to make sure I'm understanding this. Okay, we're using the bank statements, we know what the beginning of the month is based on the total cash in the bank. Could we then add our own line saying restricted cash, FEMA money, let's say it's 40,000. So let's say it was 300,000 in the bank, 40,000 for FEMA is restricted cash. That would bring us down to $260,000 of usable money, beginning balance, and that's before revenues and expenses throughout the month, till we get to an ending cash balance. In other words, you said we had to protect that money.
I'm figuring, we definitely wanna protect that money, cause it is cash,
No, I know that.
and it is part of the cash flow.
Well, right, but
but I
can we use
think-
it as part of our cash flow as long as that money is always, has to be, for FEMA purposes, we have to spend 25% more of that in the end.
Not on that amount, cause that's the cash advance for,
Yeah, all right, I'm getting confused.
Time out,
whether
time
out.
that's protected money or not.
This started with Jennifer asking how she puts notes on the,
so you have a
Manifest.
visual display.
Stop.
Right,
Okay,
we also have something called the cash flow analysis sheet. That's where all this goes, not on the
Right.
manifest. We should be
Okay,
reviewing that more often. I like the
I know
fact that I'm
nothing but
looking
the
at
cash
it.
flow.
What's it?
I haven't used the cash flow, I didn't update the cash flow. Someone needs to,
right, because we haven't really gone into it in depth yet, but the point is that I'm asking on the cash flow, does that become restricted cash that we factor out of our cash flow equations?
yes,
Or it's just there for our use, but of course we still are obligated by FEMA rules regardless. I think. Yeah, okay, I don't know.
I'm not sure what you're saying.
me neither.
Okay, if our, let's just say here's an easier way of putting it. Let's say our ending cash balance for the month is 300,000, but
In the bank.
in the bank. And that
Correct.
includes the FEMA money, but if we consider the FEMA money restricted cash, we deduct that 40,000, and going forward, we really only have, at the next month, a beginning cash balance of 260,000 available for our use.
Now I know why I didn't understand what you're saying. Restricted means you can't spend it on something,
Correct.
but you can use it as cash flow. So why would you restrict it in a cash flow statement?
Because we're using bank statements to calculate our cash flow. We're using beginning and ending balances. So it's there in our bank.
Right,
Right.
period.
But we're saying that this 40,000 can't be touched. So as long as you're going forward with your cash flows, you're eliminating that.
But it's not in the budget where we're looking
Right.
to spend it. That's what the cash flow statement's separate from.
Correct.
We're only looking at what cash we have to make payments, not how we're spending the money.
All right, then my statement is for the cash flow only, not for the budget.
Correct.
And what I'm saying is I backed out of this whole conversation saying, Jennifer's original question is, she's putting this on the manifest.
Right.
And I said, it belongs in the cash flow statement.
Yes.
She says, I'm not doing the cash flow statement yet. And
Correct.
Dinah's actually asking me for what the exact number was for the FEMA advance because she wants to work that into the cash flow statements. She wants to work on that,
I don't know that.
because you haven't seen her
Right.
Right.
since yesterday. I did.
Well, maybe that's where I jumped the gun there, but
So,
I
Right.
started thinking cash flow
So,
versus.
I didn't know if weekly, when you do the operating manifest, that you want to see a visual of. I'm kind of doing this for myself as well.
Because on
but
the
the
management.
problem is that if you have something that looks like the bank total on the manifest,
Yeah,
the bank total is gonna have the FEMA advance and
and it
the,
does, yeah,
and the auction money in there.
it does, it will, yes.
So if you need to put a note that these two amounts are in that number, it wouldn't bother me.
That's fine.
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me.
I
But
think
we need to get
it's-
to the cash flow statements happening every month too.
Yes, yeah, and the stuff all needs to get reviewed
So if
on
this
a
is,
monthly basis.
this is July 1st, I'd say in 2 weeks, we should have the goal of doing a cash flow review.
Agreed.
And you'll have a chance to talk to Dinah, and if you need
Yeah,
any help
and-
with that, we can get that
And,
going.
yeah,
But you'll get that down routine. It won't be this unknown thing. All right, next.
we need to talk about, the mailboxes.
All right,
Which
you
we
brought
can
that
make
up,
it
yeah.
pretty short and sweet, if you want to.
I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Okay, so, not naming any names. There may be a new person that is at the Madison post office. I don't know. I was gathering that that was the case. And this particular person always had a box down at the Hutwell parking lot for at least 2 years or more. And all of a sudden, she went to get mail. No, she doesn't get mail that often on this. And she has owned, she's not a full-time resident.
Correct.
They will be a full-time resident once her husband's retired and whatnot. And so at some point, they will be full-time residents, that's the goal. And has had this mailbox for 2 years or more. And went to go get her mail from the mailbox, because they were up, and found that the key no longer fit in the mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
So she went to the Madison post office. Well, first she called. I got the story. She goes to Madison post office, and whomever she spoke to there was basically like, you hardly ever use it. We're basically taking this box away from you.
Any mailbox that hasn't been emptied in a 3-month period,
Right?
the post office has the right to return that to available.
Correct.
So the post office changed the locks
Yeah.
and assigned it to somebody else.
Okay.
Because it was more than 3 months
So
before
what
they
she's wondering
emptied.
is, why was there no notification left for her?
That's up to the post office.
Yeah.
That's
and
not
what I
anything
said too.
that's nothing we're involved in.
All right, so when she did contact the post, she of course contacted me back because her whole experience with whomever
Time
was
out,
there.
time out. This is
That's-
hearsay from
It
this
is,
person.
it
You're
is
talking
hearsay.
about somebody at the post office
Right.
on hearsay.
Yeah,
We should stop.
okay.
Right.
The bottom line is similar to the realtor
Right.
is
correct.
This has nothing to do with Idlewise.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
End of story.
okay.
Next.
Okay, so getting back to the boxes, so your understanding is Madison Post Office has every right to remove,
You don't even have to know that. Let them represent that.
well, they're calling the office, so
Who's
if I'm
calling
gonna
the office?
direct
The-
them
the-
back
the-
to.
Have them call Madison Post Office. They'll
Yep.
tell them what the rules are.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah. Well, I don't think she was specifically told that, but again, that's hearsay.
right,
Exactly.
Yeah.
right, and that's, like I said, that's a post office issue, and that's not anything that we get involved in.
All right. Okay. Then I will leave it at that.
Yep,
Very good. Next.
I think that's it for administrative.
Okay. Old business road sign, road and parking sign, verbiage.
Verbiage, yeah. Did I misspell that?
Nope.
Okay.
so I had sent around a possible, what we would put on the signs, so I got the parking lot is temporary overnight, overnight parking, temporary overnight parking for residents and guests. And then the rest comes straight out of the new ordinance, as to what's allowed there, that it's a maximum of 4 consecutive days, that it cannot be returned after the 4 consecutive days within the next 90 days, and that it would be subject for removal if it is beyond 4 days or returned within 90 days. And then that no person can occupy a vehicle, trailer, or recreational vehicle while parked. No unregistered vehicles, and there's other laws that restrict parking unregistered vehicles in municipal parking lots. So it's not actually in, that particular line is not actually in the ordinance, but there's other laws that say you can't do that, so, and then that, parking there is part of, is always at the
Their risk,
owner's
yeah.
risk. So if we wanted to turn that into a sign, we could build a sign to make us signs for the post at the edge of the parking lot and on the bus stop, the bus stop.
Yeah.
Where the old signs
How big do you think
were.
the sign should, it sounds like a huge sign,
No,
no?
I have a question about intent, okay? Let's say someone parks their car for 4 consecutive days and then removes it, so everything's good. But then 30 days later, he comes back with the intention of only parking for 1 day,
nobody would know,
okay?
Yeah, we haven't marked tires.
because they wouldn't be there for, to me, it goes right at the 4 consecutive days. If you're not parking there for 4 consecutive days, you're going in and out every day, like you're a resident that now, because we're restricting parking on the side of the road, your driveway doesn't hold as much, can't have as many cars
Right.
as you have in your house, because all the kids now have drivers, now have cars.
Yeah.
Those cars will come in and out of the parking lot every day,
Yes,
but they'll come in and out every day. They won't ever be parked for 4 days. So they won't be there to get a mark.
Okay, so in and out's okay, but it's, all right.
It's the 4 consecutive days and I even took that as with the prior ordinance. It was the consecutive days that was always the
The issue.
not whether or not somebody took their truck to work every day and brought it back every, evening,
Right. right.
Okay.
So we're at the point that you want a motion to actually make the signs?
Yeah, if there's any other changes or anything that we should make to it, or if we should do it if you wanted
Multiple
to
signs,
make the sign.
or one
If you
sign.
wanted to make the
The
signs,
sign-
cause you're good at you're good at that site, and I'm not.
So the size of the sign that's on the bus stop is the same, the bus stop has a big sign on it that a previous board put on it. And then the one on the post at the far end is a little sign that looks like it could come from Build a Sign, but the big sign can't come from Build a Sign. They don't
Yeah.
have a sign that big, metal.
Oh, okay.
They have them out of other materials, but not metal.
But if that's for, oh, so that it would be for the post, right? The sign for the post
Right.
is the one you're thinking might be too big?
No, the sign on the post is the size of something you could get from Build a Sign. The one that I'm picturing that's on the building is a big one, like this, and I don't think,
It wasn't,
it was a small one too?
yeah. Yeah, it was the same size.
There was a I guess the sign, there's another sign on the bus stop that talks about parking from the bus stop out to the road for school bus people.
Yep, and that sign
So to
will
answer your
stay.
question,
Yeah.
if there's a sign that's the same size as the one on the post, we can get two, they're both identical, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just whether or not you thought this was the way the verbiage should go.
I'm okay with it.
I got it now, I understand.
Okay.
I was a little confused there, but.
And I think one of the other things we're gonna need is, we're gonna need a sign that will go on Idlewise Drive on that first post, for the new road
Parking.
side parking.
Right,
The winter band signs
Because-
come down because it's now year round.
Correct, cause now it's year round,
right.
so I think we should replace the winter ban, sign with something that says no parking on any road, no parking allowed on the roads.
That has to be a bigger sign
Yeah, I think that would have to be a bigger sign.
to look at. I was just thinking,
Didn't we use that same site to make the, beach signs years ago?
Well,
The
I
original
was
put
gonna
togethers?
say, I think we used Build a Sign to make the sign that's on the office building, which is a big,
Yeah,
so I'll have to take a look,
yeah, see if they,
yes.
but yeah, so like I said, the other sign that I would suggest is that we do have something, on Idlewise Drive that says no
Right,
parking on the roads.
except,
I don't know if we need to
put the exceptions on
put
there?
all of the exceptions on there, it's whether or not, cause
See-
real,
Maybe a note just to see the ordinance for details.
Oh, yeah, sure.
These signs, even the winter,
Yeah,
these signs are not signs that you want people to stop and read details on.
Right.
You want to
It's a
keep
sign that
going?
has to be interpreted at 20 miles an hour.
Alright.
I
In the
mean,
parking lot, that's different, you're parking,
right,
you're stopping. We don't want people stopping near the entrance
should
with,
there be
3 cars
multiple
behind
no
them trying to-
parking signs?
Hmm?
Should we install multiple no parking signs throughout?
the district?
Yeah,
Oh, talk about sign blight.
I know.
I wouldn't,
No?
yeah,
Yeah.
let's, do you need a vote to approve the verbiage? I need to look into
Yeah.
what the products are offering. Do you wanna
Okay.
bring it up again next week?
sure, we can bring that up again today.
All right.
We also should do a test against the verbiage as to how people will want to misinterpret the words. It's kinda like. you
Oh,
have to
they'll
do it-
always misinterpret them to whatever way suits them best.
I almost think that
Very
the
true.
chief likes to see signs that back up what he needs to tell people, right?
Right,
Correct.
Right.
So maybe we need to have him review the signs before we get them manufactured too.
yep,
So let's take our time and get this right
yeah.
as best we can. And then take them down and modify them as soon as we find out.
Hopefully not.
Okay, all set on that? It's 15 past 11. Signature items? Hotwell parking ordinance?
The highway and parking ordinance.
Okay, this is the final
Yep.
for signature.
You said he was good with.
Make a motion that we sign this highway and parking ordinance,
Second,
Aye.
aye.
3-0. Permit for construction. These are driveway permits for construction on 17 Riggy and 42 Hotwell.
Correct.
I'll make a motion that we sign both of these driveway construction permits.
Second?
Second,
Any
Aye.
discussion on that? 3-0 on approving these? Yes?
Aye.
yes, aye.
And those are here? Removal of debris from ditch line at 7 Chicora View Drive. That's the letter. I'll make a motion that we discuss and approve this letter to be sent to the owners of 7 Chicora View Drive.
Second,
Discussion. All in favor?
aye.
3-0. Checks. Vacation day request, Friday the 25th and Monday the 28th.
For me, yep.
Depends on where you're going.
And it's actually not really finalized, but I need to put it out there
You may
just in
shift
case, yeah,
against reality.
correct.
Motion to discuss and approve vacation request days.
Second,
Any further discussion?
the only thing I would say is, does the board want to change the meeting on July 29th to the 30th, if there is such a day in July?
There's a day, yeah.
I'm not looking at a calendar, I don't know.
Oops.
Where Jennifer will have had a long weekend. So she wouldn't have things ready for us for Tuesday morning.
What were the dates you?
The 29th is the meeting date.
Right.
I'm requesting Monday, the 28th as a vacation day.
Right, and the Friday before.
And that could shift based on
Correct, and
things
the
out of your
Friday
control?
before.
Oh, you're definitely taking that day?
No, I can't definitely say I'm taking these
So to
days.
shift the meeting and not know whether she's really taking it or not.
Correct.
Might not be worth it.
Oh, okay,
But I didn't wanna submit this a week prior to,
Yeah.
right,
or the week that I wanna take Friday and
Yeah.
Monday,
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean?
All right. Well, we still have time. If that gets solidified a couple weeks in advance, I got no problem with doing a meeting on the 30th, as of right now.
right,
Okay,
Things can change.
so we need to sign
That's it on signature items. Correspondence, none. Public appearance, none. Non-agenda items. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At 11:19. Thank you, Carol.